For years, The Real Housewives ruled reality TV, dripping in diamonds, drama, and designer dreams. But in 2025, everything changed. The women who once lived off fame, chaos, and camera time started facing the harsh reality that the spotlight doesn't shine forever. Scandals erupted, lawsuits dragged on, marriages crumbled, and reputations collapsed right before our eyes. From Beverly Hills to New Jersey, from Atlanta to New York, these housewives went from red carpets to rock bottom, and some might never recover. Let's uncover the real housewives whose careers completely fell apart in 2025. Erika Jayne. Erika's comeback plan read like a movie script. Glitzy outfits, bold performances, and a confident smile that said she was untouchable. But after years of lawsuits tied to her ex-husband's legal mess, 2025 wasn't a revival so much as a slow-motion unravel. She tried everything: spotlight appearances, a push to reboot her music and stage work, and flashy social posts showing the life she wanted everyone to believe she still had. Yet behind the camera, the stories kept circling. Settlement talks, financial strain, and public fatigue that no amount of sparkle could hide. Fans who once cheered her every look started to whisper. Questions about money and morals followed her like paparazzi. When her Vegas residency underperformed, critics were merciless. Some called it tone-deaf to celebrate luxury, while others were still suffering the fallout of the scandals. Even her most loyal followers began to wonder whether the woman who sang about being expensive was out of touch with reality. The images that used to protect Erika began to feel like a mask stretched too thin. There's also a human side to this that people forget when they reduce everything to headlines. Constant legal battles wear you down. The cameras don't show the long nights, the lawyers' calls, or the pressure to keep smiling in the middle of chaos. Still, the courtrooms and tabloid columns seeped into her brand. Endorsements cooled, bookings slowed, and the industry that once celebrated her glamour started to look the other way. Hollywood can be forgiving, but it's not blind. And for Erika, the patience ran out. By the end of the year, the comeback felt stalled. The sparkle was still there in photos, but the shine had dulled when you looked closer. People weren't just judging her choices, they were questioning whether she understood the consequences. In a world where image is everything, Erika's story wasn't just about law. It was about a woman who lost her spotlight the same way she lost her shine. 2. Dorit Kemsley. Dorit always sold a perfect picture: immaculate hair, couture outfits, and the kind of confident laughter that made viewers want what she had. Her brand was polished, aspirational, and utterly Beverly Hills. But when her split from PK went public, everything that looked carefully curated started to crack. The breakup wasn't just personal, it opened a door to financial whispers and house troubles that fans had never expected from a woman who seemed to have it all. Once the marriage drama hit the headlines, small rumors became bigger stories. Reports about unpaid bills, tax headaches, and property stress made people look twice at the lifestyle Dorit showcased on camera. Fashion endorsements that once flocked to her began to fade, and the cozy circle of Bravo friendships that amplified her image shifted into awkward distance. Insiders started hinting that producers were reconsidering her future on the show, and sudden silences at cast events suggested the drama was costing her more than just pride. The emotional toll was clear. Dorit had built a life around the mantra, "Look rich, act calm," but 2025 forced her to live without those filters. Social media pictures kept showing the handbags and designer labels, but behind them, there were late-night texts, tense legal calls, and moments of real insecurity. Audiences started to see a woman trying desperately to keep an image afloat while the currents below were getting rougher. For someone whose identity was so tied to glamour, the change cut deep. The designer bags stayed, at least in photos, but the sparkle didn't. Viewers went from admiring to empathizing, and in some cases, they simply lost interest. In a show that thrives on confidence and control, Dorit's loss of both made her future feel uncertain. The cameras might keep rolling, but for Dorit, 2025 was the year the gloss came off. And that's a hard look to recover from. 3. Garcelle Beauvais. She arrived on the Housewives scene like a breath of fresh air. Elegant, grounded, and real. Fans loved her for the way she balanced fame with family, and for bringing calm sense to scenes that could otherwise spiral. For years, Garcelle seemed untouchable, respected by viewers, embraced by the cast, and trusted by producers. But 2025 brought a quiet upheaval. After 5 seasons, she made the surprising announcement that she'd be stepping away from the show. On the surface, it sounded peaceful: family first, new projects, a desire for change. But the truth felt more complicated. Walking away from a platform that made you famous is always risky. Garcelle had legitimate reasons. Her kids needed stability, and she wanted to pursue other parts of her career. Still, fans noticed the timing, the sudden lack of on-screen presence, and the whispers that creative differences and behind-the-scenes friction played a role. In reality TV, leaving can be an act of strength, or it can be the only option left when the stress and drama get too heavy. For Garcelle, it looked like both. The industry respected her choice, but the momentum she once had drifted away the moment she stopped showing up in reunion scenes and cast events. The loss of regular Bravo exposure meant fewer headlines, fewer branded opportunities, and less of that daily fan interaction that keeps a reality star relevant. Casting directors and brands love familiarity. Once you step out of the revolving Housewives spotlight, people naturally look for someone else to fill the space. Garcelle's transition to film and other projects showed promise, but the steady, dependable fan love she enjoyed on Housewives was harder to replicate elsewhere. There's dignity in choosing peace over chaos, and Garcelle's decision was admirable. But in the ruthless world of reality TV fame, even graceful exits can feel like career downshifts. She may find a beautiful new path, yet 2025 marked the year when the safe, strong center of Beverly Hills shifted, and Garcelle's platform quietly shrank as a result. 4. Lisa Rinna. Lisa Rinna always knew how to command a room. Her sharp wit, loud energy, and fearless comebacks made her a staple of Housewives conversation for years. Lisa wasn't afraid to stir the pot. In fact, she built a career on it. When you live by controversy, you can also risk burning out the audience that once adored your every zinger. By 2025, that pattern finally caught up with her. After stepping away from the show, Lisa worked hard to reinvent herself with business projects and media appearances. She launched brands, did interviews, and tried to keep the public engaged the way she always had: big voice, big opinions, big personality. But without the consistent, dramatic backdrop of weekly episodes, the persona that once felt fresh began to look exhausted and overplayed. Fans began to say Lisa was performing the same lines, the same feuds, the same outrage, and that repetition made her appear less authentic and more like an act. Brands and producers who once lined up for Lisa started to hesitate. The old formula, say something outrageous, get attention, monetize the fallout, didn't have the same spark anymore. She was competing for relevance in a crowded landscape where new stars are constantly being made by viral moments and fresh storylines. For someone who made a name as a provocateur, being lost in a sea of newer, edgier personalities was painful to watch. There's also the toll of being on all the time. Without the structured drama of a show to fuel her, Lisa's attempts to stay in the spotlight often read as forced. Interviews that once felt spicy felt defensive. Social posts that used to trend barely registered. In a business that trades on novelty, Lisa's brand looks stale by comparison. She's still bold, still unafraid, and still has a presence many would envy. But 2025 was the year the camera stopped amplifying her in the same way. And when that happens, even the loudest voice can start to fade. 5. Ramona Singer. Ramona Singer was once the face of the Real Housewives of New York City. Bold, brash, and unapologetically confident. But in 2025, her time as a Bravo icon finally ran out. After years of controversy surrounding her comments and behavior, networks and fans alike seemed to move on. When the legacy version of Roni aired, Ramona's absence was painfully noticeable. And not in the way she might have hoped. Rumors of brand deals drying up began circulating early in the year, especially after several of her social media partnerships quietly ended. Insiders claimed companies found her too unpredictable and off-brand for modern audiences. Even her once loyal fanbase started losing interest, calling her out for being stuck in the past. Ramona's attempts to stay relevant, posting throwback clips, attending old Housewives events, and launching half-hearted lifestyle ventures fell flat. While her co-stars evolved into entrepreneurs and influencers, Ramona seemed trapped in the past, clinging to an image that no longer worked in 2025's cancel-sensitive world. Her story became symbolic of what happens when fame refuses to evolve. The singer-stinger that once made her a legend now made her a liability. And Bravo didn't want the risk. For Ramona, the problem wasn't losing the spotlight. It was never realizing it had already moved on. 6. Leah McSweeney. Leah McSweeney always prided herself on being fearless, outspoken, raw, and unfiltered. When she joined the Real Housewives of New York, she brought a new kind of energy, edgy, unpredictable, and unapologetically herself. But in 2025, Leah's boldness took a serious turn when she filed a major lawsuit against Bravo and Andy Cohen, accusing them of fostering a toxic work environment and exploiting cast members' struggles for ratings. The move made national headlines. Some praised her for standing up to one of television's most powerful franchises, but others saw it as a dangerous gamble. Overnight, Leah went from reality rebel to industry outsider. Instead of sparking reform, her lawsuit painted her as difficult, angry, and ungrateful, words no Hollywood producer wants to hear. The fallout was brutal. Leah's brand partnerships dried up, her podcast listeners dropped, and former allies stayed quiet. The entertainment world is often kind to victims, but never to whistleblowers, and Leah learned that lesson the hard way. Even though her fight may one day change how reality stars are treated, the immediate cost was steep. Leah's story is painful because it's so real, a reminder that doing the right thing doesn't always mean winning. Leah's fight for justice might be right, but in Hollywood, fighting power often means losing the spotlight. She wanted freedom, but it cost her everything. 7. Margaret Josephs. Margaret Josephs was once the beating heart of the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Quick-witted, confident, and bold, she could throw shade with style and still make you laugh moments later. For years, her sharp tongue and business-savvy image made her a fan favorite, the perfect mix of sass and smarts. But by 2025, that charm began to wear off. The same qualities that once made Margaret magnetic started to feel predictable. Her feuds with other cast members, especially Teresa Giudice and Jennifer Aydin, had been replayed so many times that fans began calling the show stuck on repeat. Even her signature humor couldn't save her from audience fatigue. Margaret tried branching out, podcast, lifestyle collaborations, and social media ventures, but they didn't generate the same buzz. Her confident persona, once empowering, began to read as defensive. She wasn't the bold truth teller anymore. She was the veteran housewife struggling to stay relevant in a franchise that thrives on fresh chaos. Margaret's confidence became her curse. People got tired of the same performance. She built her brand on gossip, but gossip moves on fast. 8. Teresa Giudice. For years, Teresa Giudice was in New Jersey. The table flipping queen, the comeback survivor, the woman who turned chaos into currency. But in 2025, that empire began to crumble, not with a bang, but with exhaustion. Her marriage to Luis Ruelas, once branded as her happily ever after, faced non-stop rumors. Fans grew skeptical of their lavish lifestyle, especially after reports of financial strain and business issues surfaced online. Insiders whispered about unpaid event deals and canceled appearances, a sharp contrast to the Teresa who once dominated Bravo conventions and endorsement circuits. On RHONJ, her storyline became repetitive. Feuds, forgiveness, tears, repeat. Viewers started tuning out, saying she'd outlived her own drama. Even Bravo executives reportedly began discussing a future for New Jersey without her. That idea, once unthinkable, suddenly felt inevitable. Teresa tried to pivot, launching products, collaborating on fitness lines, and promoting her podcast, but none made the impact she hoped for. And while she still had diehard fans, her relevance was fading in a franchise that now thrives on younger, hungrier housewives. Teresa's legacy will always be unforgettable, but even the strongest Jersey girl can't fight when the spotlight moves on. 9. Kyle Richards. Kyle Richards always played the part of Beverly Hills Queen Bee, polished, loyal, and business savvy. But in 2025, the cracks began to show. After her shocking split from Mauricio Umansky, the picture-perfect image of her life started to unravel in public. For months, Kyle tried to keep things graceful, posting positive quotes and yoga selfies. But fans sensed the pain beneath the perfection. Then came the headlines: financial tension, strained friendships, and growing distance from her longtime co-stars. Her once beloved clothing brand, Kyle x Shahida, struggled to stay afloat. Reality fatigue hit hard, and Bravo's producers began hinting at a new direction for Chubb, one without its longest-running star. Even her social media engagement, once full of admiration, turned into debates about authenticity and image. By mid-2025, Kyle looked tired, not just physically, but emotionally. Years of balancing fame, family, and friendship wars had taken their toll. Fans who'd followed her since season 1 couldn't help but feel sad. Kyle wasn't scandalous or cruel, just stuck. Stuck between the woman she used to be and the one she no longer knew how to play. Kyle's downfall wasn't about drama, it was about finally letting the mask slip and realizing the real her didn't want the cameras anymore. Kenya Moore. Kenya Moore built her entire brand on confidence, beauty, and brains. She was the woman who could twirl through any storm. But in 2025, her charm started to wear thin, and the audience's patience went with it. After years of fiery feuds and unforgettable one-liners on The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Kenya's narrative began to feel recycled. Producers reportedly grew frustrated with her constant battles and emotional outbursts. When filming for the new season began, rumors swirled that Kenya's role was being reduced, or possibly phased out. Her personal life didn't help. Legal tensions with her ex resurfaced, and her business ventures, including her hair care line, were struggling to keep up with competitors. Fans began accusing her of using drama as a distraction from real problems. By late 2025, Kenya's social media presence had shifted. Less glamour, more cryptic posts about betrayal and new beginnings. Some took it as a sign of growth. Others saw it as a quiet goodbye. Once the ultimate Gone with the Wind fabulous queen, Kenya's reign ended not because she stopped being dramatic, but because audiences stopped being entertained by it. Kenya's story is proof that no matter how fierce your confidence, fame can humble even the boldest queen. From Beverly Hills to Atlanta, from New Jersey to New York, 2025 proved that reality fame doesn't last forever. These women once lived like modern-day royalty, adored by millions and feared by just as many. But behind the designer clothes, private jets, and diamond intros, their worlds were built on fragile foundations: gossip, pressure, and performance. Some are still fighting to rebuild. Others have quietly accepted that their time has passed. But one thing is certain: the Real Housewives universe will never be the same. Because fame isn't forever. And in 2025, the cameras didn't just stop rolling, they moved on. Which Housewives downfall shocked you the most this year? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into Bravo's biggest reality legends.